Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you sound good. We'll get the posts
Okay.
in order. Whoops. I'm all over the place, when I open the space here. But yeah, welcome, Aura. We're gonna get rolling here in a minute. Take care of some of the business here. Pin up the posts that we need. Get everyone caught up on the um, the series because the series finale just dropped an hour ago. So I'm excited to get into it, talk about it with Christopher. Why don't you do this while I'm doing that work? How about you talk about it a little bit, like what the series is, who, how it got started, that kind of stuff, and then we'll dive into the episodes and I'll ask you some questions and everything. Does that sound good?
Sounds good. Okay. Which series are we talking about?
We're talking about Capstone, your analog horror series created by Christopher Bryant in partnership with Asteria Studios.
Yes. Okay. So I had this idea about 6 months before um, Asteria contacted me. Um, and it was going to be one of those, just like a single episode, one off kind of a thing. And it's basically what you see in episode one, which is like a very bare bones idea that, you know, welcome. It's like, it's meant to be like an instructional tape. And, you know, you're watching it. It's clearly not made for you. It's made for whoever was the recipient of the tape, the actual lighthouse caretaker. And it's like a tutorial on how to be a lighthouse caretaker. But as time goes on, it makes it pretty clear that it's not your average normal thing. There's nothing about maintenance or anything like that. So it just comes up as kind of creepy. So the original idea I had, again, was basically what you saw in episode one, but as I wrote in the series, the idea was basically like there's something under the lighthouse. It goes on for miles and miles underneath the ground, and even though that doesn't make sense, and you're not supposed to go down there, my original idea was to have like I don't know, just like killer robots or something down there. But I came up with a better idea, and that's what you see throughout the rest of the series. So yeah, so I had this idea kind of ready to go, and I got contact through a friend of a friend with an actual film company, and they wanted to start doing AI only stuff because usually what they do, they work with other film companies. They work with like the top names in industry. They actually shoot things live, um, live action type stuff. But they wanted to see if they could seed money and create original IP for themselves in the same amount of money it would take to do like film tests, just regular film tests, like one person creating an entire series. Just wanted to see how that would go and if they could make it profitable. So they came to me with this idea. They're like, we'll give you money to create this, and you know, it'll be like 50% ours and 50% yours, and like if it takes off, we can go from there. So yeah, it was very exciting. I've seen them in the news, and they've been very prominent, especially in the AI uh, space, and they're also working on a few others. But yeah, it was very exciting to hear back from them, and to basically they gave me carte blanche to do whatever I wanted, which was awesome. So
Yeah, that's what's really special about this. And I think it's kind of a really good roadmap for what's possible for content creators and really finding your lane and like leaning into it, which is, I think, exactly what you do and exactly why it was such a good fit for your work. So, like, sometimes stuff doesn't exist yet for what you do, but as long as you keep doing what is authentic to you and stuff that you genuinely love, right? Sometimes the world bring like it just kind of comes out of thin air, like something that someone else is working on and you're going to fit into their vision of things. And so I think that's why I was so excited about this project and about doing these spaces where we talk about it, because it's not just about promoting the series, but it's about how we can encourage people that if you really do put that focus and energy into what you genuinely are passionate about, it will like come back to you in a way that's pretty exciting and pretty interesting. Not everyone will have opportunities like this, obviously, but just that they're testing out this kind of thing and innovating in the social media space, I think it can be, a roadmap for other studios to maybe do something similar, or just kind of get creative and try new things and see what works, and develop with someone, at a as a content creator, to become more than just that, because there's so much talent out there. So this was done in partnership with independent film studio Asteria. And yeah, they are not really prevalent or active on X, but they are legit, and they've got like a really great Instagram, which is what they're doing on there. They really showcase it. And I wish they would do it more here, but I get it. They can focus. You can only do so much, right? You have to focus your energy somewhere. And they work with a lot of people in Hollywood, that actors and actresses that we know, and artists, and people behind the scenes in the film industry that have worked on projects that we all know. So that it's very exciting. So do you want to talk about, I know you said that it came through just a friend of a friend, that referral, word of mouth type of scenario, but like, how take us on that journey of like how that developed. You positioned yourself in a certain way to kind of attract a certain thing, right? I think with your content, and then how that leads into these communications with other people, which ultimately leads into kind of like commission work, which I probably would file this under. Uh, and not just this, but in other opportunities. And then how that relationship developed specifically with Asteria.
Yeah. So I've been in the AI video space for about, probably been more than 2 years now, and I've just been making the best things that I could, and that's been helpful. I've got a decent amount of a following, um, much more recently now, but yeah, people kept saying, your stuff is the best. Nobody's stuff looks like yours, and so I was like, I should probably start following that. People are saying it, so I should probably start following that, and putting myself out there as like, giving advice, and, positioning myself in a way that, people can ask questions, and I can tell them, what I do specifically, and most of it just comes down to like studying real film and studying the way that they create actual films, and then trying to emulate that with AI. So, I mean, like the bare bones structure is already there. You just have to apply it to this, which, I mean, it's sometimes a bit easier said than done. But there's a lot of tricks. There's like a film language that goes on there. That like where people are positioned, that like within the frame, all that kind of stuff. It's like a language that can explain what's going on, and you could take one frame and say like, okay, this is probably what's happening, just based on where characters are, the composition of the scene, the colors of the scene. Is this guy higher or lower in the frame? Is he towering over them? Like that tells you something about what's going on in the story without any words having to be said. So so that's all kind of been laid out, and it works very well if you utilize it correctly. So I started speaking about that, and eventually I got invited on a space with PJ Asatoro. I think that's how you say his name. and with a lot of heavy hitters as far as like AI type people, and we talked for a little bit about AI and the anti-AI movement and all that kind of stuff. And from there, he DM'd me about working on this project. He said it was a contest at first, but it turns out they just wanted to invest in a show. So that's where I got that connect from. So yeah, so if everybody just talk to PJ Ace and he'll hook you up with everyone in the industry, because that's how that works. Probably should have preface that by saying like I mean I've known him before. I've followed his stuff. He followed my stuff, so I don't know that DMing him is the best course of action. So maybe don't do that.
Yeah, no, and I think really it's maybe not about just the specific person, which can be helpful, but there's a lot of people on X that are in that world, or somehow, like, they may not be working for studios, but they may be investing in studios. They may be investing in different things. They may be, working as partners, or have a friend or a buddy who's doing it. So you never know who's out there lurking, especially on X. It's like super lurker heavy. And I never discount anybody, like people that just pop in here anonymously, or even if we're in just like a space alone and I'm talking to Christopher about his work, like I just pretend like some of the big dogs are in the room, right? And make sure that we are like showcasing what he does first and foremost, and taking it seriously, because the opportunities are everywhere. I talk about that a lot, and you never know. So it went through like, a connection on X, and someone that you've, and we talked about this too in the space earlier with Rich and I about Instagram. This is how you build connections, is genuine interactions with people. Like, you like what he's doing, he likes what you're doing, you encourage each other in your own way, and then when something comes up, you're in the mind. And it can go both ways, right? So you just have built that connection naturally. What happens next from there?
I mean, it can take many forms. Usually they'll reach out to me and it'll be, like, oh, we've got this project. We're short a guy. Do you want to get in on that? That's happening right now. With some things that I can't talk about specifically, but it's big stuff. But those interactions, those connections came from, going out to space, catching other people's stuff. I might know who they are and know that they're like very well known, but you don't want to just go out there and be like, oh, this guy's well connected, so I'm going to follow this guy and say all this stuff is amazing. They could smell that stuff a mile away. Like, and if you just like, you type out something like, oh, this is good, it means, if you know that your stuff is good, it means almost nothing. And it can also be like something where you're like, oh, I was just messing around and I'm just going to throw this thing out there, even though they're really good at what they do. Sometimes I do this, other people do this, where they're just like, I'm just going to put out like a little tiny thing just to keep my account active, and you get a reaction that's like, oh, this is the best thing ever, wow, like people are going to pick up on that you're not being sincere. So yeah, so I don't do that. If I say I like something, I really like it, and I try to articulate why specifically, if I'm replying or if I'm quote posting or something like that, because I want to, I don't want to come off as like just flippant about something being good or something being interesting. I want to actually explain why it is good if I can. Sometimes that's a hard ask.
Yeah, no, it's true, right? So it's like you're just scrolling or whatever, and you see something that catches your eye, you genuinely enjoy it, you're engaging with that in a natural way. It's not like deliberately seeking out people. Like, there is an art to that as well. Like, if you are trying to, we were talking about just like tuning up the algorithm earlier, as far as like what you see and for content, and finding those people in that universe that that have content and just post things that you enjoy genuinely, just getting them in your orbit. There's nothing wrong with like actively seeking that out and just being on someone's radar. But yeah, you don't want like, we all know, we all just went through the reply guy heyday the last 6 months, And we all know what that means when it's just like people are just replying for whatever impressions to be seen, and it doesn't sit right with anybody. No one likes it. And it's one of those things, when you see it. So yeah, that authentic engagement of actually genuinely participating and engaging with content that you enjoy, and it also aligns with, to some degree, your ultimate goal on here or wherever you are, is definitely a good strategy. If you're talking strategy, I mean, people will talk about like, oh, post at this time of day, only post 3 times a day, all these other strategies, which really don't mean anything when in reality, you want to talk about strategy to your ultimate goal. This is how to do it. So you make these connections, and then you start making direct communication. And with do they come to you with the idea of like, this is what we want to do? We want to just give you free reign, or do they want to hear you pitch something first? How did that all go down?
Oh, with Assyria, they wanted to hear a pitch, and I actually already had it ready. So I wrote up based on my original idea. I tweaked it a little bit, and basically wrote out the entire script in one shot, and it changed a lot from that original one. But the bare bones were there, and every episode was basically what it was in the original descriptions. Some stuff got added, some stuff got taken out, but for the most part, it was already kind of ready to go in my head. So putting it to a script was super easy, and then I just explained them in general terms. I didn't want like a full on explanation of everything. I just wanted kind of like a Cliff's Notes version of the entire series, like a couple sentences, and that's about it. And then they had me send like the full breakdown later on, like off of a call.
Okay, so this is fantastic because like listening to this, like what if someone contacted you? Like I'm not saying you, Christopher, I mean just like you out in the universe listening to this. Like someone contacts you and says, "Hey, I've got a big bushel basket, boss. I got a big bushel basket full of money. I'm gonna give it to you, but you need to tell me about your project that you're gonna spend my money on and what you're gonna do with it." Are you prepared in that moment? Like someone just like walking up to you and doing that in general? Like are any of us prepared for that? So this is really a great thing to think about. What's the ultimate goal of how we're putting ourselves out online? It could be here, it could be on LinkedIn, it could be on Instagram, or your own website or whatever. And imagine that person showing up with the money. Are you positioning yourself in that way to be able to like make it clear, like the person with the basket of money knows to come to you? And then also, when they do come with that basket of money, do you know what to say to them? And having a couple projects under your belt, uh, fully formulated, or to the point of like, okay, I know what I want to do with this in general. Like it's not like they're done, because the creative process is a process, but you have that a few of these ready to go at a second's notice in your mind, so you can come up with one idea, be like, yeah, this is the idea I would go with. And if you're not getting the response, you can also have like a second idea or a couple other ideas to throw out there for different scenarios. So that's what I love when you tell that story, because it's just like a lot of people aren't prepared for that. Did you think about that consciously, or you just like had that because you just been working so hard the past years?
No, and I didn't have that with the intention of doing anything other than maybe doing it myself at one point. And I encourage this because I don't think the idea of um, putting together a bunch of ideas for a pitch is appealing to anyone, because you never know if you're going to get that. So you never know if you're going to be wasting your time there. So instead, I would say, just collect ideas that you have for your own, just for you to make on your own and throw down social media or something like that. Um, and have a bunch of those. Like maybe you have a dream. This happens to me a lot. I have a dream and I write it down, and it seems like, oh, that would be a cool story to tell. Or just randomly have an idea. making dinner or something like that, and I write that down, with the intention of maybe doing it myself, and a lot of them I have done myself. So I think that's a better way to do it. If you get in the habit of doing this over and over again, eventually stuff is going to pile up, and you'll be able to tell which ones are the best ones, because you'll be they'll come back to you. Like, you give it like a month or two, and the idea will like keep coming back to you in your head. Like, you don't even have to check your notes for your list of ideas. It's just like, ooh, I should really do this. It's time to do this. I should do this. So those are the ones that you want to keep on the top of your list.
Okay, so this is a great point, and I want to dig into it a little bit. So what we're talking about ultimately is personal work, right? These are projects that you want to create on your own because you're passionate about them. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about like what personal work is and what it means to you. And you're very prolific in it, I think, as coming up with not just like little snippets and clips and sharing your process, but also as like creating completed pieces, completed short films as part of your personal work. And maybe, so can you like talk about that? Because that's, I think, something that is different about you than a lot of people on here. I don't know if you think about it that way, but I definitely noticed that. So what's your process for that, or if you even think about that, or if it's just like it's naturally unfolded over time because you just want to put out what you want to do, or what?
Well, I don't know that I normally think about it like on the top of my head, but certainly I will see something and it will hit me a certain way, and realize that I have a story to tell that kind of mirrors that reality. One of them, the idea for Capstone and the larger world, because it's connected to other work that I've done, is a series called Parasitic State. It's in the same universe. So the reason why I had that idea in the first place, um, was I was watching the news. It started like a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. There was a bunch of cities where, in the news in England, where people were getting put in jail for social media posts, and that kind of thing grabs my attention because it's wild. They just said a thing, and online, and sometimes it was even just liking something or reposting something, and they get in jail for that, and it's absolutely insane. And when I was reading one of those news posts, um, I started to I started to collect the names of the cities where this stuff happened, and it was all these like different areas of the UK, and that's where I got the idea for Parasitic State. Was I was like thinking of all these cities and what would they look like in the future. And somebody actually in that thread, they actually called it a parasitic state, and I was thinking, what if that wasn't just a saying? What if that was actually literal? There's an actual parasite out there that's controlling the government, and that's where all this came from. This entire world came from. Is that like, yeah, there's this horrific controlling force that's seeping out of the ground, and it just keeps growing and growing. And what does that look like 10 years from now, 20 years from now? Because I think that my gut reaction is really what drives this, because I see stories like that, and I think we just kind of come to accept it. After a year or two, we come to accept it. But and it's just like, and people are pissed off about it. I don't think they should be. They should be pissed off about it, but they should also be horrified about it. And that's the kind of connection, that and the kind of emotional connection that I had to writing this story. Was I want to show this in a different light. Like if it was something else and not a bureaucrat in a suit with a tie and like carrying a briefcase. If it wasn't that, if it was some kind of horrible monster, you'd react differently. Even if they were doing the exact same thing, you would react differently. And why is that? So that's connection that I've got. And also, there's this is something that I've been looking at for decades. Just I'm a big fan of 1984 by George Orwell. That kind of dystopian idea of like showing what the world could be like in the future if these things didn't stop. If they were just pushed to their absolute limit, what kind of world would that look like?
Cool. Wow. Yeah. It's amazing. And sometimes people can just naturally do this over. I mean, you're such an experienced and thoughtful artist. And anyone who's done something for a long time knows it's really hard to like break down what it is that you're actually doing, because it just becomes automatic and just makes sense and you just do it
Yeah, I
and
don't know
not
if
really.
my explanation made any sense. Also,
It might not be. I'm posting a lot and sharing a lot right now. So if anyone wants to watch the full series that we're talking about, in particular Capstone, but we're getting deeper into the creative process and how you can like apply what Christopher learned doing this whole project and what he knows from his experience from the space. And but we really do encourage everyone to go watch the series. And you can find that on his website. I have that link pinned up above. Just tap that, open it up, go in there, full permission to leave the space and go watch those and come back and have your questions for Christopher. And you're welcome to come and request the mic and throw a hand up, and we'll you can ask him anything you want about it. And that's also found down below in the purple pill. If you don't have time to come up and ask a question, you can drop a question down there, or just leave your reaction. Any kind of interaction with the posts on YouTube, you'll find links to YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, where we'll get to why it's on those platforms and it's its own account, which is kind of interesting. So any interaction you can do with those accounts and with the post itself will ultimately benefit all content creators, I think, because that just encourages and shows that this tactic that Asteria is doing can be effective way to you know get talent from the content creator communities, not just on X, but elsewhere. And that's ultimately good for everybody. All right, so we'll go to Rich here in a second. I just want to get your question on, or get a question in about that that process of when you made that connection with Asteria, and you started to build the series. Now you went to you pitched essentially what you had, and then what were the steps that it went from there? Did they kind of dictate the like how it was all going to happen? Were you a part of that? Was it a collaboration as far as like how the I know they gave you a pretty much free license to just create whatever you wanted, but as far as like the structure of like the number of episodes and how it was going to be put out, and just in general like the timeline for things, uh, how did that work with them?
well, they wanted 5 episodes, so that was kind of set in stone, and also um, they uh, they wanted them to be shorts, like on YouTube Shorts and TikTok and all that, and Instagram. So to get that monetized and have it actually be visible, they have to be 60 seconds or less. You can do on YouTube, you can do 3-minute shorts, but they just kind of disappear from the algorithm. So with that in mind, I did write everything to take place within the 60-second time limit, which didn't really work out for a couple episodes. I had to like cram everything together to get it to work, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I thought it would be a massive problem, but it was also kind of helpful because it would kind of inform you as to like what's most important, what do you need to get out before the end of 60 seconds. So I think that will actually inform my editing from now on, where it's like, some moments need to linger, some moments don't. And, you have to make those choices, especially on social media. But as far as the time frame, they had a general time frame for when they wanted things delivered. They said, oh, if you have a process, you can just stick to that process and just meet these deadlines for each episode for like a rough draft and all this kind of stuff, and we'll go from there. Or you could do like a actual production kind of thing. That's what they're used to, and I'm like, I will absolutely adhere to your uh, setup for this kind of stuff, pre-production, writing, all that kind of stuff. Whatever it is for an actual video, like a live action production, that's what I want to do. I don't want to just, you know, I want to be learning something while I'm doing this. So I did everything kind of the way that they would normally do it, so that I can learn that process. And I figured that would be better for them to kind of receive things in a better way, and it would be good for me to learn it. So I don't know if that answers all your questions.
No, that's fantastic. And it's like, yeah, this is an opportunity to learn, right? Not just do as asked and deliver. Like you're learning from them. I think that's a true collaboration, as like they're adding input, you're presenting what you want to do, you create the videos, they give you feedback, and not taking that as like, oh, they're trying to control my work and everything, but actually learning how it all works, or at least from their perspective how things work, and taking that as a learning experience. And not every I think this experience for you was really good and positive, but I mean, I'm sure that could also go another direction, if it's not the right partnership, right? So I'm going to ask one question, then we'll go to Rich, I promise, and Aura has her hand up too. And anyone's welcome to come up and chime in on this. Say, how would you handle it if this wasn't the perfect fit? Or maybe there was some things that maybe you were like, okay, I feel like I'm compromising on, like maybe the aspect ratio early on was kind of something like that. Um, but do you come out with like, okay, I'm learning from this experience, I'm still getting something out of it? Or is that hard to do? Maybe not something you would want to do. Or if it was a different company and it didn't go well, like how would you handle it?
I'd probably just treat it as like, instead of a passion project, I would be like, okay, I'm just working for them now. Like, it's not ideal, but at this stage in my career, it's not like I can dictate everything that I get to do. I don't think I wouldn't just throw up my hands and say, like, oh, it's got to be my way or not. But they were very accommodating. There were very few things. There was some feedback, and I listened to it because I don't watch a lot of shorts. So they had a pretty good line on the mindset of somebody who watches these shorts, and maybe click off if they get bored. So they were like, you should slot in a few things that are exciting in the beginning to kind of catch their attention. And I think they were right about that. So, and then nothing they ever said was like top down dictated. It was just like, you can do whatever you want, but this is our feedback, and I listened to them, and they actually did have some cool ideas here and there. The voiceovers were actually their idea. I wasn't originally going to do voiceovers, but for the text, so and I think that worked out perfectly. It did like kind of an Orson Welles kind of thing, which you might think is me, but that's like the first AI voice I've ever used.
Yeah, that's funny. It's so funny watching the finished product and being like, like the way it all integrated very well as far as like your ideas versus theirs, and that it really came together quite well. So you did definitely do a good job listening to feedback and then interpreting it into fit into your ideas
Yeah,
as well.
I think the reason why it helped, why it worked so well, is because they liked the idea from the beginning, and they were very enthusiastic about it. And so they were like, "Ooh, what if this happens? Ooh, what if this happens?" I'm like, "Ooh," if they didn't like the idea, their idea, their feedback would have been different. They would have been trying to change it. Instead, they were like trying to enhance it. So Yeah, it was great. It was not a problem at all. I think I only pushed back on like one thing, and they were like, "Okay, I understand." Like I showed them, I actually took their advice, made two versions of it it was episode 4 and the beginning of episode 5. Made two versions of that, and I showed them back to back. I was like, this is why this works better if they're watching them from one to the other. There were some issues with pacing that I thought were important to address, and they were like, "Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. Let's do it your way." They were totally cool about it.
That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like a great collaboration. I hope there was talk of a season 2, so I hope that does happen and you do get to work with them more, because it did seem they are very much artist centered, and we did go and tour their studio in LA, and that was just incredible, and you could tell how passionate they are about artists and creators and unique ideas, and just trying things and seeing what works and experimenting. So let's go to Rich and see what he's got to add, and we'll get some feedback there and go ahead over to Aura after Rich. So Rich, thanks for joining us.
Hello, hello, Kate, Christopher, everybody else. Christopher, congratulations on the series.
Thank
It's
you.
awesome to see it all, come to a finale. I think it was great. I told you in chat earlier today, like I sat down and I watched it all from start to finish, every episode. And to anybody listening, I think the best way to do that is to go to chrisfryant.com/capstone. Kate has it set up really nice where you can just pass from one episode to the next, and you can even go back and watch the previous one, because you're going to want to, because Christopher hit a lot of little Easter eggs and things in there. So you're going to watch like episode 4, episode 5, and you're going to be like, hold on, what happened during episode 2? So yeah, great job with the layout there, Kate. And Christopher, well done. It's awesome. Like, I want more. It definitely leaves me hungry for more. So that's kind of my question is, if this were to turn into something more, what form do you think that would take? Do you think that would be season 2, sort of similar format, or do you think it would maybe be like a longer format with like longer episodes, maybe the same story but longer episodes, more detail with each episode, or maybe a movie? Like, what do you think if it were to grow?
Yeah, it certainly wouldn't be shorts anymore. It would be probably in a more cinematic format. There would be a personal story going on. It would focus on a like characters that you can see instead of like just referencing those characters. Um, and yeah, I can't talk too much about the plans of it, but there could be some live action in there, maybe, possibly. I don't know. Never done it before. I guess we can try that. I would love to try that. But it all depends on how this season goes and how successful it is.
Awesome. That's awesome. And also, thank you, Kate, for doing these spaces for the Capstone releases, because I love hearing all of this from Christopher, because, I've never worked on a big project like this with like a big studio, and so it's cool to hear his perspective of, how it all went down and, from start to finish. And you're such a great host. So thank you, Kate.
Yes, thank you, Kate. I really appreciate everything that you've done.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think the presentation of this kind of stuff is so important. And that's, we're in a relationship. So I'm like definitely keyed into what he's doing, and I want to highlight it as best I can. But, like these things it's relatively easy to do this kind of thing, like considering what marketing is involved. And so, like, this is, I think, an effective way to get it out there. And then also having the presentation on the website, like, so it's easy to find. This was something that I was like very much pushing for with him, because I like he's got so much visual work. It should be on a website presentation so people can find it easily. So we're slowly building that up. But this, I was like, we need to have this as like the home base for everything, so you can send everyone to a place. and make it easy to just like watch it. And so we did build that. And anyone who's interested in how that all went down, I'm happy to like explain, because it's definitely easier than a lot of people make it seem. So let's go ahead. Thank you, guys. I'm glad you enjoy these spaces. I certainly do. I love talking about this stuff. It's so much fun. So we have Or up here with her hand up, and I'd love to know what she thought, if she had a chance to watch all 5 episodes like Rich did, or if she's getting caught up, or any questions you've got. Hi,
I've been watching each of these the moment that I was aware that they were out, except for this last one because I was taking the kids to school, but I saw the space. I was like, oh crap. So I watched that before I even came back to listen to you guys. And Christopher, I'm just blown away. I haven't even learned how to do video yet, but you really are doing such amazing representational work of what AI can do and the potential of it. It just blows me away. But I do have to say that didn't look like a finale to me in any way, shape, or form. What the hell is happening? They've gotten through the wires like all the other lighthouses. The connection's not. Oh, I'm sorry. No spoilers. No spoilers. But yeah, no. I don't even like horror, but I do like sci-fi, and I do like apocalyptic and kind of creepy. And so you've captured that. You've kept me hooked, and I hope to see more in this series. Great job.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, we have plans. I don't know if they're going to happen, but I definitely want to do more. And we'll see what form that takes. But thank you for watching them all.
Wait.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Rich.
Oh, sorry. Can we not discuss like spoilers? Because like there is a part of it I would like to discuss.
Can you try to be
No,
like no?
okay.
Can you try to be like just obfuscating about it? And
Yeah, slightly vague.
Yeah.
So okay, so there's this part where they have to decontaminate people, and so okay, so like to go through, I guess there's like a transporter process. I don't know if I'm being too vague or not vague, but it could maybe go wrong, and you might have to handle that anyway. But it also seems like there's also a separate thing going on down there of other like creepy crawlies. Maybe they're like being quarantined or something, and they also might get out. I don't know. It seems like there's a few different things going on down there, so I definitely want to learn more.
Well, what I can say is there's nothing separate there. It's all part of the same thing. Like you can think of it like a system, like pieces of hardware in a computer, right? So everything that you see is part of that system.
Okay, yeah, it's awesome. You did such a good job.
Thank you.
So yeah, in this lane of everyone really enjoying it, now this was a commission piece or series, now this strategy of, putting stuff out one week and then another one another week, what did you think of that? Now, would you ever want to do that on your own?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, like an episodic type of thing again, like on your own.
Yeah, I would want to. I don't know that I'm in the place right now to actually do that. I have a lot of work coming up. So yeah, I think the time for that is kind of past. But it may.
Well, I don't mean like later today. I mean eventually. Like always, these projects take time. This one developed over months. So it's always something that's like, do you have like other ideas, maybe not in this world, but like other things that could play out episodically that you can build over time?
Oh yeah, I have tons of ideas. Jury's still out on whether they're good ones or not, but I think I try to like file them down to like, okay, here's my top 100, and which of these is worth actually making, or at least putting out feelers to make. Like, I don't know if I would want to do it in the same way, just because it would be a risk for all that time, and maybe nobody picks it up. Because the way that I made Capstone was like I did them all at once, and that was helpful for a lot of reasons. But yeah, I don't know if I could actually do that. I don't know if I could actually justify that amount of work not putting out anything at the time. I would probably just do it one episode at a time, and then I just have to live with whatever choices that I made, and not be able to go back and insert things. There's a lot of that going on. There's stuff from episode 5 that's in episode 1, and stuff from episode 3 that's in, or episode 2 that's in episode 1 and 3, and also 5. So like stuff like that wouldn't exist. Like a little bit, it would never have been retroactive like it was in the way that I created it without some kind of support. I would just be able to do it when I could, release it when I could, and it probably wouldn't have been as good. Like that's just the nature of doing things on your own.
Okay, well, I want to push back on that a little bit and say, this timeline and the steps that you learned from from working with them, and all that stuff, like you could apply it to your own and your own idea or your own project, and just extend that timeline. Instead of it being 3 months, now it's 2 years, or a year, or 6 months, or whatever would be realistic, and doing things in little bite-sized, snack-sized pieces, putting it together, finishing the series or mini series or whatever it is, whatever it comes out to be, and releasing it in this way where it's completed, and then you just put out the episodes one by one. So that's not something you're interested in doing.
It's not that I'm not interested in it. I just don't know if I have the self-control. If I put something together and I think it's really good, I'm gonna want to release it immediately. So I mean, so the compromise for that kind of thing would just be to do an excess of planning at the very first stage. Like write everything out, write out all the episodes. That's not too big of a deal, right? Like that's something that you can do, and it can evolve over time. But if you have something planned out, at least like this season, and then like fill that all in for an entire season, and then just make the episodes as you have time to make them, release them. That would probably be the best compromise I could, because if it was just me, I would have just released them. I would be like, come on, this is done. I don't I don't want to wait for this stuff. Like yeah, maybe not the best for marketing, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna take control of the marketing of this, and I think it's really a great thing that you did. The restraint that it forced you to have with the putting it out. Like, I think it's not for everything, but I think it does have its place. And having it completed before putting it out, I think, and then we can have these like really thoughtful conversations about it as well. There may be things where, yeah, creating it and releasing it and just putting it out, that's also a strategy too. I think that works for some things. So I don't know. I'm it's interesting to me, and I think it's created some of like, your work stands for itself. Like you can do it however you want, but I don't know. I think it came out really as a finished project, really good with that kind of restraint. So I'm going to try and encourage it.
I mean, technically, I was under contract, so I don't know how much restraint I actually had, and it was like more like legal restraint. No, but
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
whatever it takes.
I knew the plan going in, so I knew like, as obviously I was never going to release anything that that I had ready to go. That would have been wild. That would have been a really quick way to end a relationship. So, but doesn't mean I didn't want to.
Okay, okay. And yeah, I know I'm aware of this weird spaces glitch that it does look to everybody like Christopher's at symbol is spelled incorrectly in the title. That's just a weird glitch. I don't know why it shows up that way. On my end, it's perfect. And so I don't know. Does it look off to you, Christopher?
Yeah, it says at C at rant at Ryant, which is probably somebody else.
No, see, on mine, it's perfect. So I don't know if you go in and edit it, maybe play around with that, see if you can edit it or just put your name in there. And we'll go to Rich.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought that was funny. When you were talking about the doing the whole season of like an episodic series all at once, I think that especially makes sense when you're working with AI to create it because by the time if you're creating a series that you're going to release over the course of like 6 months, by the time you're working on that last episode, there's going to be new tools or the tools are going to have upgraded to better versions, and so it'll be less of a cohesive project, especially if you try to release it all as like then one like a longer like short film or something, all joined together or whatever at the end versus if you just create it all at once, then you're working with like the same level of AI technology. And also doing it that way, I think that frees you up to have worked on that series that you can release over the course of, let's say, 6 months. And then while you're free to work on other projects. Like while you're releasing that, you can be working on your next project that you'll release over like the next 6 months or something like that. So yeah, I really like the idea of having it completely finished and ready to go versus having to like change your brain focus and go back to that thought pattern of creating for that universe every month or whatever.
Yeah, I think it might also help to have some kind of time limit on that kind of thing because and like hard deadlines because um I don't know if anybody's a gamer here, but you might have heard of the story of like Duke Nukem Forever, which took 12, 15 years to come out. And the reason why it took so long is because they didn't have a time limit. They just like they started making one game and they released a trailer for that. And then a new game came out and they're like, oh, let's change everything about this game to be more like this game. And then that kept happening over and over and over again. And so like as the technology was evolving, as the zeitgeist was evolving, they just like couldn't stop. They were just like just Adderall ridden, just like jumping on the next idea and the next idea and the next idea instead of focusing on what they had and the technology when they started, and not letting that creep out into, the larger project. So there's a level of restraint that is required for that kind of thing. So you can apply that to AI, and I did. As I was making this series, it was over the course of like 4 months, 3 months actual work, and then like 1 month when I was planning. Um, and yeah, during that time, there were new things that came out for AI, but I think I got lucky with that a little bit. I don't know if I would have just jumped on that, but the look of the series was very well defined beforehand. Like I had screenshots of like this is what this could look like, and they're basically what you see in the final um, finished product. But yeah, so it was very well defined. So like to go back and change that to take advantage of some new technology didn't make sense. So I think that's helpful if you want to like nail that stuff down. This is what it's going to look like with this technology today, so that you don't go off later and say, "Oh, we could try this or we could try that," because that's just going to delay you.
All right. Yeah, some great questions there. Thanks everyone for jumping in and listening. So with that, I mean, we've covered a lot of how the project came to be, how it developed over time, and like the collaboration with Asteria Studios, which I might put their Instagram link down below because that might be helpful for people to just kind of get connected into like what they're doing, which is pretty interesting. So what I wanted to ask was, what was the process of putting these episodes together? Like, what tools did you use? Let's get into like the nitty gritty of making these. What were you using to create like the AI content within them? And then also you created some of your own animations, I believe, in a couple of them. Um, and what we're using to edit, this kind of stuff. So let's start off with like, what AI tools were you using to create the videos?
So a lot of the bare bones stuff that you see, I created with Midjourney, and then most of that stuff I then, like initial images, I brought those in to Photoshop. I did a decent amount of editing for a lot of those because I wasn't quite getting what I was looking for. There's a scene in episode 1 with like the cross section of the lighthouse and the spoilers, the massive facility underneath the ground. That's something I couldn't pull off with Midjourney, so I went into Magnific and used that instead. So I got all the kind of initial images for basically the entire series together, one at a time. All the screens, all the text. I got all that together, so that you had like a very clear picture of what everything was going to look like for the entire series. Sent that off to Asteria. They loved it, so that was fine. And so I started to animate stuff. There's a lot of backgrounds. I chose Kling 1.6 specifically because it has the ability to handle already stylized images. There's some images in episode 1 and 2 and 3 that are stylized versions, like black and red duotone images of a lighthouse, and there's animated like oceans going on, and then I flipped the colors and did that again. I chose Kling 1.6 because it can handle stylized images very well, and I was able to just feed it those images and get something like 10 seconds long that I could use in an animation without having to then, like, I was trying to avoid having to get like a live action shot of that, like make it look like a normal lighthouse and then do the coloring on top of that and like video editing or something like that, because wasn't sure how long that was going to take or if it was going to nail the style that I was after. So Kling 1.6 was great for that. I used it throughout the series. For some of the later stuff, which is spoilerific, I also use Kling 1.6 for that. Throughout the entire series, I used maybe 2 sound effects that I didn't create myself that were just like from like a stock pack for film creation type stuff. There's some like ambient sound type stuff, but like 99% of the sound effects were created in 11 Labs. They have a thing for like prompting to create a sound effect. They have things so you get to decide how long you want the sound to be. And I think at the time it was up to 10 seconds. Now it's up to like 15 seconds. I don't know how useful that is, but with that, I was able to prompt and have kind of like a sound design with similar prompts throughout the series. So I would always use the same phrasing and the same things that I would say near the end of a prompt throughout the series, so that there was a cohesive sound everything, like a like an old school computer and industrial type sound. And I went through a ton of work getting all of those together and getting the exact right sound effects that I imagined in my head about how this would sound when this thing shows up, or like anything that I could do to make it closer to what I had in my head, which is great because usually it's the other way around. Usually you don't have a lot of money, you're sure as hell not going to be able to afford like a Foley guy to create new sound effects. So this was perfect for me. I was able to like get something that instead of just going out and looking at audio packs for like hours and hours trying to find just this one sound or one sound that I could pick up and then kind of like maybe with audio tools pitch shift it or make it sound a little bit closer to what I had in mind. Instead, I could actually define what that is. And I don't think that there's a short of being an audio engineer, I don't know that there's any other way to do that. I think that's one of those use cases with AI that's like specific to AI, is that you can actually do that, and you can do it in a way that's like the same over the course of a series, and like an actual sound design that you're defining yourself instead of just grabbing bits and pieces here and there. So that's for the audio. And then I also use Runway's Act One for one of the episodes. I won't give spoilers away to that, but you'll know when you see it. It's like a character moving around and talking. And so I did that myself in front of a webcam, and that was relatively easy. Runway handled that one very well. It was kind of a weird angle, and I wasn't sure if it was going to be able to pull it off, but I did, no problem. So that was cool. And then so I brought in all that stuff. I had all the video clips and the sound design stuff. Some of it, it wasn't always a linear thing. Like some of the stuff I had to like remake later on when I was editing all this together. Some of it I was like, okay, so this just doesn't work. This sound effect that I thought would be good, it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb versus everything else I'm hearing. So there was a little bit of back and forth, but I edited everything together in After Effects. There were some extended animation, hand animated type stuff that I did with After Effects, some stuff that I had to learn how to do because I didn't know exactly how to do it. I mean, I could have done it by hand, but it would have been an absolute nightmare. But yeah, so maybe sometime I'll send out like some screenshots of the timeline, and yeah, you can see like it's not exactly pushing a button. There's hundreds and hundreds of layers of animation, a lot of moving parts, and probably better ways to structure that kind of thing. But I'm self-taught, so just trying to like there's certain use cases that I just don't have the background for. So talked with ChatGPT a lot when I didn't know how to do something efficiently and within the time frame. So that was very helpful. So highly recommend that as well.
Yeah, so we can see how like there's a lot to this process of creating even just like 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes of video, right? These are each under a minute, which it's incredible process that's involved to do these. So amazing job putting it all together and using all the tools available to you to get it to make sense, work it out, make it look seamless, right? Look easy, which it wasn't. And you can see just by or hear from what Krista was saying with all the different AIs that are available. Some are good at this thing, some are better at that thing. And when you don't know, you can ask AI as well to help guide you through a process that maybe you're not familiar with. So I'm not sure what else we can really talk about with that. But this was just an amazing conversation. And you think about like, oh, how can we talk about something for an hour? And yes, I can just make it happen. Like one subject for an hour, we can do it and still have more to dig into. But I think we'll leave it at that. And anyone who's popped in along the way or is listening, I have this live streaming across different platforms. Please go ahead and click through the links that I shared. That will take you to Christopher's website to watch all 5 episodes. You can also find the links to watch this on different platforms. Wait, you know what? I want to talk a little bit about this because the way this was presented is a little bit interesting. They created fresh social media accounts for the series. So it's not on Christopher's social media. It's on Capstone social media. So it has its own social media platforms or accounts, I mean, on YouTube, the YouTube channel, TikTok account, and an Instagram account. So through that link that I shared, that takes you to Christopher's website with the Capstone section, you can find all of those accounts, and you can subscribe and turn on notifications. So when season 2 comes out, who knows when that will be? It may be a while, but you will want to make sure you're made aware of it. If you're listening to this, who knows what where you'll be or if you'll be able to find it when season 2 comes out. So make sure you go to those channels, all those accounts, and are following, and then turn on those notifications so you can stay updated with the series if you are interested. And then also on Christopher's website, you'll find all his social media, and you can follow him across all those on his accounts, and he'll be sharing those updates as well, I'm sure. So with that, maybe you can close out with, like, what was that decision to create their own accounts? That's an interesting strategy. I don't know if you have an answer for that, but what's up with that?
I think it was purely for like analytics, and there are other reasons, but I don't know if I should share. But yeah, there are reasons. I think a lot of it is analytics. Like, they don't, like, if it was on my account, they'd have to dig through all my stuff to watch the analytics versus like just pure, this series and that series kind of thing. So I think it just clarifies things, and it allows them to, move things around, and maybe restructure things a lot easier than if they had to deal with an entire account.
Oh yeah, okay, so that does make sense, and that's an interesting thought process with that. So yeah, they have the standalone Capstone account, and as well, Asteria has done this model with other creators who are creating episodic short series. They're putting out on other accounts, so you can kind of look into the other things that they're doing as well, and support that, because I think this is a very interesting model that they're attacking, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. So I did share their Instagram link down below in the purple pill if you want to check them out. They are associated with Natasha Lyonne, who you definitely know. If you don't know her name, you've seen her in TV, Netflix, films, all over the place. And she's doing a lot of work with them, and really at the forefront of like art and technology and AI. So it's good to support that whole world in general, not just what Christopher's doing, but just what everyone is doing, and showing the love, because it doesn't take a long time to dig into some of these posts and see the haters out there. So any positive feedback that you can give on any of this stuff, that anyone that's involved in this and moving this forward for artists like Christopher and other people on this platform that we know, goes a long way. I really think it does. So keeping the positive comments and encouragement will help combat those haters, right? As someone who has gotten hate on some of your posts, Christopher, would you say that's true?
Yes. Yes. No, it's good. It's very helpful that it got the positive and the negative. I don't know that I would care all that much if it was all negative, but it would make me want to rethink my strategies a little bit, or maybe just turn on, like reply only. Replies only by verified accounts, and that would probably take care of it.
Yeah. But I mean, the idea of the positive, I think, means a lot more in this space,
Yeah.
in particular.
Yeah, definitely.
Than you would probably think, just as a regular person going through accounts and looking at things like those. That positive feedback, it means a lot, and especially with the contrast of people leaving really terrible and negative comments. So think about that when you're out there looking at people's stuff. I certainly do. Yeah, so I think we'll wrap this up. Thanks so much, Christopher. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we close up the space and move on with our dreary lives?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Kate. You've done an amazing job, both with the website and with what you're doing on the spaces. And yeah, these are some great questions, and I very much appreciate you, both personally and professionally. So just wanted to say thank you very much. And thank you to Asteria for making this possible. One of the things I wanted to point out, like a lot of the hater hater comments that I see a lot are like, oh, you're taking jobs from, like a sound guy, you're taking jobs from an animations person or CGI people or something like that. No. This is a good example of the opposite of that, because this literally wouldn't exist at all. It just wouldn't exist without AI, and there wouldn't have been anybody else involved. It just wouldn't have happened. So, just keep that in mind. Like some things are only possible because of AI, because people don't have the time, they don't have the funding, they're not rich, they don't get everything handed to them. It's just like, you got to work with the tools that you have. So I really appreciate Asteria giving me this opportunity, and I hope we can do more in the future.
Yes, here. All right. Yeah. And thanks for being a wonderful guest. If you were terrible at this, I probably wouldn't do it so much, but you are very good at sharing what you know and being very forthcoming, and as much of the details that you can share of how things develop. And it's, I think, encouraging, inspirational, and shows how, like, perseverance. You can go to Christopher's account on X, scroll back as long as you want, and you're going to get, he evolves over time, right? But it's a very consistent, like, decision that he's made with what he puts out there. Maybe more recently, you've been a little bit more of a wild card, but I don't know.
Gotta switch it up every once in a while. But no, you'll see. If you go back like 2 years, you can see similar stuff going on, similarly wild stuff. But maybe a little more balanced these days.
Yeah, but always you. And I think that's the point I'm trying to make. It's like, very few compromises, if any, in what you put out there. So I think that's just a testament to how it can be done, and you can be proud of it. And I'm certainly proud of you and everything you're accomplishing. And there's more coming soon. So be on the lookout. Lots of exciting things. And if you want to, yes.
One thing I wanted to point out, there is a ton of hidden stuff in these episodes. Every single one of them has hidden lore that you can maybe see a word or a phrase. You might want to Google it. There are hidden things in the descriptions. There are hidden things in the YouTube channel in certain places if you look around on the channel page. So yeah, they're like, it's like a puzzle box kind of thing. It's not just the videos. There's stuff hidden throughout. So if you want to piece together what's going on and the hidden story that it's telling, yeah, check it out.
Yes, absolutely. Check it out. Watch it 100 times. See if you can understand it, and then reply with your theories, your comments, what you think is going on. And then when you think you figured it out, watch it again, and then reply again with what else you learned, and just get kind of obsessed with it. And then wake up in the morning and think about it again, watch it again, and leave your comments.
And then mention that you would like a Capstone t-shirt, hat, and mug.
Yes, and season 2, of course. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us and listening. It's great to see you all. I always enjoy seeing the familiar faces down there, and hope that we can all do this sometime for you. If you have something that you ever want to highlight, this is what this community is about: collaboration, not just with what work you're creating, but with me, to bring a highlight to the content that you're doing, and discussing it, and so we can all learn from it and become better. So thanks again, Christopher, Rich, Aura, and everyone who was listening down below. We'll see you in the next space. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody, for listening.